Hey guys, Reginald Duck here, back today with another deck profile. So for today I've got my Blind Second Magical Musket deck. I think with the new support this indirectly got, I think Blind Second is the way you have to go. So let's get into it. You've got 3 copies of the only good one, Caspar. All the others are middling to average, but this card is actually really good. When a card is played in its column, spell or trap that is, it will let you add a Magical Musket card from deck to hand, except with the same name as the card activated, and they all have the effect where while you control Magical Musket you can play the Magical Musket spells and traps from hand. So this is really good. 3 copies of this, 3 copies of Starfire. It's not as good, but so what this one does, when one's played in a column underneath it or you're in front of it sort of thing, it will summon from the deck, so you would then just summon a copy of Caspar. So the reason it's a bit worse is, one, it summons it in defense, which is sometimes good, sometimes bad, but also it means you need more cards to activate to be able to actually resolve this. You need more like spells and traps, for example, but still really good. Yeah, you have to play 3 because you do need to be able to make the link 1, so you want as many Musket names as you can play, so 3 of these. And then for the one-offs, like I said, these aren't particularly good, but you do need more names, so you are on 9 names. So it's 1 dock. What this one does is when one's played underneath it, you can add back a Magical Musket with a different name from the one activated. So it just helps you recycle. 1 Calamity, it's not so good, it's level 4, so it helps make Utopia double. Also when one's played in its column, you can special summon one from graveyard. And then this one, probably the worst one, you can, when one's played in its column, discard a Magical Musket card, draw 2 cards. Not particularly good, if I'm being honest, especially with it being level 3. I was tempted to play Forward Skipper, but this has more synergy with the new support, so there we go, that's the 9 names. The last 2 monsters, 2 copies of Parallel Exceed. You do have a link 1 in this deck, so I want to be able to just spam out more damage. This is just a free Utopia double, just on its own, so really cool. Onto the spells, the only 2 Musket spells we play. 2 copies of Cross Domination. What it does is it negates a monster effect and then reduces its attack to 0. So negates monster effect on the field, that is. It is a quick effect and you can play it from hand if you control a Magical Musket. All the Musket spell and traps require you to control a Musket to be able to activate them. So, to control a Musket monster, that is. So 2 copies, because you have a lot of answers to monsters in the main deck anyway, with it being Blind Second, so you just need the 2. 3 Prosperity. Again, you are only playing 9 monsters, so you really want to be able to just get to your consistency, you know. Even if you don't win that turn, if you resolve max, you can go +5. So really good. Also the extra deck isn't that tight, so there's always stuff you can banish. This is the best card in the deck. It has just been released now in the new Megatin. It is Link into the Vrains. What it does is it'll special summon a monster from your hand, then immediately after this effect resolves, summon a Link monster using that as material, and they can't respond to the Link summon, and they can't respond to the effect on Link summon. So basically, if this resolves, you summon max and they can't respond with any of the back row or whatever. So if they've got 5 back row, you get summon 5 guys, for example. So if they don't have a spell negate, then they probably lose. Really good card. Also has an effect in graveyard where you can banish it when something's destroyed, but generally if you resolve this you're probably going to win that turn anyway. 3 copies of Dark Ruler. This card has a lot of synergy with the deck, because obviously with it going second, but also it doesn't remove the cards. So if you Dark Ruler their board, you can still use max to get 5, say they have 5 monsters, get 5 back row searched. So really good card. Also it is just a staple anyway, I mean you have to play it, and you can summon your guy, place this under it in a column, and then get your effect as well. So really good. 3 Super Poly. I wasn't very popular at locals playing this, I'm going to be honest. A lot of people hated facing me, but Garura and Mud Dragon are just so diverse. You can Super Poly basically anything. All of the meta can be Super Polyed. Depending on your local level, you could play different Super Poly targets, but for me, I'm just playing those two. Card is insane. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot of things your opponent can't respond to in this deck. Even if they end on a spell negate, like they can't respond to the Super Poly, the Dark Ruler, stuff like that, and other stuff coming up. 3 copies of Ultimate Slayer. Again, they can't respond with monster effects, so it just completely blanks them essentially. Generally, I only use it about Toad, but I mean, it depends on what they've got that's a problem. You are playing lots of different targets for it. You're playing like a Synchro, you just play Lynx anyway. It's not amazing sending an XYZ because there's none that have graveyard effects that I can use, but I mean, if I could just 1-for-1 my opponent and get rid of the Toad, stop and bring it back with Elf, gets rid of 2 negations with 1 card, I'm very happy. 3 copies of excuse me, 3 copies of Raigeki. I prefer this over Lightning Storm because you can activate this whenever, so you can actually summon a guy, then Lightning Storm and Raigeki, which you couldn't do with Lightning Storm. Or you could resolve Max, then Raigeki them, for example. Whereas you can't actually do that with Lightning Storm, you have to do it sort of first. So I think this is a lot more versatile in that way, you can trigger your own cards with it. Again, same with Duster, just a really strong card. A lot of times if you know what the back row is, you can play through it, summon your guy, resolve it to summon loads of guys and then just Duster them anyway to get rid of any sort of remainder. So really good to just play after you've resolved Max if you can sort of force the Max through. Really cool. 1 copy of Double or Nothing. You are playing a Utopia turbo deck essentially because Max just summons 2 level 4s from deck a lot of the time, and you are able to resolve the cross domination, reducing their guy to 0, so you can basically attack over anything with Utopia double for game. Really cool. Also, it's important to remember sometimes you can run out of spells and have only monsters, you're in a grind game, so you can use the Utopia double to actually search this, then play this in a column to like trigger Caspar, for example, which would then search the cross domination. So really cool. You don't want to draw it, but you know, it's part of the game. I mean, they can't just have a 10k attack in rank 4 with no Garnet. 3 copies of Desperado. So basically, once per turn, target a face-up card on the field, destroy it. Obviously, I can play it from my hand as well. It is searchable, it's recyclable. It's one of the better names. 3 copies of Magical Musket Last Stand. The reason I'm playing 3, so this one is a counter trap that negates spell or trap cards, hard ones per turn again, because a lot of times if you're playing into, like, for example, a Sprite Smashers or something, if they just banish you normal summon, if you don't have the link into the Vrains, you can just lose, and there's a lot more answers to monsters in the main deck than there is spell and trap, so I'm maining 3, because obviously I've got Dark Ruler, Super Poly, Raigeki, Ultimate Slayer, so I needed something to sort of round it out, so 3 copies of this. And then lastly, 1 copy of Dancing Needle. This card is insane. The amount of times, I mean, you can use it against Sprite, banish the Ronin Toad when they banish the Swap Frog, and you banish like Jet, Blue or whatever else. So it banishes 3 from graveyard. Or the other day, a guy did the Wonder Magician Scythe combo, activated Scythe in graveyard to special summon and just banished it, and his entire board was worthless because he didn't Scythe lock me. So I just managed to make a Link 1 and just smash him. Really cool card. I used to play 2, but I did want to bring it down to 40 cards, so that's it for the main deck. Onto the extra deck. Got 3 copies of Magical Musketeer Max. It is the reason to play the deck. Basically, it's a Link 1, requires any Magical Musket, level 8 or lower, and you can, when it's summoned, add monsters. If they've got 5 back row, for example, you get to summon 5 monsters from deck, and if they had 5 monsters, you get to add 5 of your Magical Musket spell and traps from deck. So it's insane, and obviously it lets you play them from hand as well. So you would, ideally, you'd have quite a few back row, you'd summon this, and then if you've used Link into the Vrains, they can't even negate this summon, like with a warning, well, with a judgment or anything, and then you would just get to summon 5. And they can't respond to that, so that's 3 copies of that. Also, it points down, which makes it quite easy to co-link with a Phoenix, for example, so you can sort of link climb and draw as well. One copy of Phoenix, really good, especially because you can draw, and it'll make it so this and your max can't be destroyed by battle if they are co-linked, so really good for link climbing. One Unicorn, again, really good for link climbing. You are playing the access code as well, so pretty self-explanatory. Access code, I mean, you have to play it because you are a blind second deck. A lot of times you can just blow your opponent out without it, like with Utopia double, but if you draw a double or nothing or whatever, you know, you've had to use Utopia for making lightning, for example, this is still a really good sort of out. And then you've got your Utopia package. You've got one double, one Utopia, and one lightning. So basically, this, you make this, and it would add the double or nothing, then immediately special summon this, but its attack is doubled. This, when it attacks, you negate its own attack, and then you activate double or nothing to double its attack, and it can attack again, so it goes up to 10k. And this just helps out tricky boards, like stuff that you don't want to destroy by battle. Like, for example, if you beat over a Totally Awesome, they wouldn't be able to add back the water monster from graveyard. Really cool. Also, it can go up to 5,000 attack, so you can just sort of out basically anything, any towers like cards that are on less than 5k. So that's just those three. One copy of Abyss Dweller, because Tier is the best deck. Generally you don't want to go first anyway, but if they've got, like, for example, a redoer on board, if you make this, it can sort of, like, it's not amazing. You're probably still going to lose if you go against Tier going first, but I mean, it is the most powerful deck. So one Dweller, you do have to play it. One Zeus, because the Utopia the Lightning, if you make it on top of the normal Utopia, would have 4 materials, so you can out a guy, and if you've not used an attach effect, you can actually get a 4 material Zeus out of it. So that's really good. For the fusions, got 3. Got the Garura and the Mud Dragon. Both of these are just super poly targets. Same attribute, different type, same type and attribute. This one, the effect never really comes up, can't be targeted by stuff with the same attribute and it can change attributes. But this does a lot of damage because it does double damage, and then also when it leaves the field, well, it goes to the graveyard, sorry, I get to draw 1 card. So I could also send this off Ultimate Slayer if I wanted to draw a card, for example. So both really good, just helps you like super poly your opponent all of the time. One copy of Intus, this card is insane. You can't actually summon it, it's just that you play Ultimate Slayer, so you could always, you know, if they've got a fusion card, send this, pop another card. Really cool. And lastly, one Wind Pegasus. I was playing the Omega, but I think this is actually better, gives you a sort of banish it from graveyard to be a removal. Again, you just send it with Ultimate Slayer, so really good. That's it for the extra deck. I've not actually built a side deck for this because I didn't get to play it at Hobby League, but generally it'd probably be Unending Nightmare for the Mystic Mind decks, a couple of Cosmics, probably some Strikes for going first, because this deck does struggle going first because there's so many main decks like blind second cards. Not really sure about the rest, but that's it. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.